Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
The Super Bowl looks to be the final audition for Kellen Moore with the New Orleans Saints. Also, how does a player stay diehard when the team is already dead? And there's no actual suitable trade for Luka Doncic. Or at least this one wasn't it. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
We're here, Radio Row, New Orleans, which means we had to talk to our pal Ross Jackson from Locked On Saints. And this is like the perfect crossover, not even though we're not on Thursday, because Philadelphia Eagles offensive coordinator Kellen Moore is the odds-on favorite to be the next New Orleans Saints head coach.
Yeah.
Let's just start here. Tell me why.
Well, I'm wearing green, so that's probably why, right? So this is my please Kellen outfit. No, I think the big reason why is because, well, the New Orleans Saints have run out of most of their candidates, right? They've seen a lot of candidates dip out, but we kind of expected that was going to be the case to an extent, right? They were in on Cliff Kingsbury. That was not going to happen. They were in on Aaron Glenn. We all knew, at least most of us knew, that he wanted the Jets job, so he ended up taking the Jets job. Then we saw Joe Brady walk away. We saw Mike McCarthy walk away because he's like, I don't want to lose that job to my former assistant in Kellen Moore. I got a 2026 cycle to get ready for, so he went and got ready for that. So I think the reason why you're looking at Kellen Moore at this point is because you've seen sort of the list trickle down, and he's been one of the guys that the New Orleans Saints have wanted from the very beginning that has remained. And I think a big reason why is what he can do on offense, and the fact that he's been in a bunch of different offenses with a couple of different teams gives him a little bit more of a Rolodex to help build out that coaching staff as well.
Would bringing in someone like Kellen Moore, who's a first-time head coach, still a young coach overall, signal a change in strategy here in New Orleans? Because as you know, this has been we're trying to do this thing now. We will kick that can as far down the road as we need to, salary cap wise. Would that be a signal that, hey, maybe the times are changing?
Yes. Yes, finally. I think the biggest thing here is there's going to be a public line, which is we're still competing, trying to win, we believe, can compete in the division, all that kind of stuff. But behind the scenes, and if you watch the actions of the team, really the mental shift started last year. Didn't spend a lot in free agency. They made one big splash signing with Chase Young, but they did that on a fairly manageable contract. Yeah. Outside of that, they didn't really do anything. A lot of one-year deals, a single 2-year deal last year. So really the process has begun. But when you bring in a first-year head coach and you tell that head coach that they're going to give you patience to be able to build what it is that you want, get out of the salary cap situation, get the roster younger. There's several players of the age of 32 years old that are taking up over $100 million of contract space, just 32 or older. And I think you're starting to see, like with a signing or with a hire like this, should the New Orleans Saints be able to get it done, that you will start to see that sort of identity shift and the Saints kind of finally embracing where they are, taking a couple of years and then getting back into competing later.
What would you want to see from a Saints perspective on Sunday? Not that it's going to make or break the hire, but just to say, hey, look, these are the places that the Saints are really not great here. I'd love to see Kellen Moore show us on a national stage in the biggest game that he can bring this.
Adjusting. That's got to be the biggest thing. Adjusting to what the defense is giving you, adjusting to what the defense is showing you. Now, he's going to have to go up against one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL, and Steve Spagnuolo, shoulder surgery. And so there's this whole kind of piece behind that in terms of like, are you going to be able to adjust as effectively against him? We'll see. But I think that's got to be the biggest thing. The New Orleans Saints brought in Clint Kubiak last year as their offensive coordinator from the San Francisco 49ers because they wanted that Kubiak/Shanahan system of offense. Clint Kubiak, though, came in and didn't adjust anything. Was very true to what it is that he wanted to do, and then had no counterpunch. Can Kellen Moore bring counterpunches on his offense? I think that's going to be one of the things that would be most refreshing to the eyes of fans, and probably most refreshing to the eyes of the organization as well.
Okay, let's say the worst happens, and for some reason, Kellen Moore's like,
you know what? I'm good.
Yeah.
Where do the Saints go from there?
Well, they still have 3 other candidates that they've kind of put on ice effectively until after the Super Bowl. The Saints have informed those 3 candidates that they will not make a decision until after the Super Bowl, which has effectively told all of them, like, hey, Kellen Moore is the top remaining choice, but we'll come back to you if we need you. And so that's defensive coordinator.
Stay on call.
That's defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver from the Miami Dolphins. I have heard whispers that he's actually not being as heavily considered because the Saints really want to go the offensive or CEO head coach route. So then that leaves Darren Rizzi, who was the interim head coach last year for the team, as well as Mike Kafka, the New York Giants offensive coordinator and assistant head coach. So I would say either Rizzi or Kafka is where you go next. Kafka is somebody that can bring you something on the offensive side of the football, has experience from Andy Reid, so you're hoping to capture some of the Andy Reid flame and leave behind some of the New York Giants flame that you saw from Kafka. Or you go with Darren Rizzi, who everyone on the roster wants to work with, and everyone on the coaching staff wants to work with, everyone on the coaching staff that remains. And so I think you go with either of those. I'd probably go Rizzi from a culture perspective, but we'll see which way New Orleans would go after that.
You can stay up to date on the New Orleans Saints by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Saints on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Your Locked On Sports Today coming up. Staying engaged with a bad team is a hard job. Before we get to that, the top 2 teams in the East squared off. Super Bowl 59 is here. 1 game, 2 teams, endless possibilities, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in Super Bowl bets, that's icing on the cake. And the $5, you could go to the point spread on the Super Bowl. FanDuel has it close right now. Chiefs slightly favored. Kansas City laying 1.5 against Philadelphia this Sunday. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. Top 2 teams in the East collided on Tuesday night.
Boston Celtics play one of their most complete games of the season to get the win in Cleveland. They did a good job defensively. I think the defense, especially early on, is what won them this game. Great job on Evan Mobley, making him uncomfortable. He shot 3 of 14. Some of that's good defense. Some of that is shot luck. Some of that same thing applies to Donovan Mitchell going 4 of 14 from 3. We've seen him have better shooting nights than that against the Celtics. Darius Garland, 8 of 20 from 3. Again, some defense, some miss stuff. The Celtics made shots when it mattered. Derek White, especially 14 points in the fourth quarter. But hey, Jason Tatum shot 7 of 23. Kristaps Porzingis shot 7 of 20. So the Celtics didn't exactly light it up. They didn't go nuts and have a 25 made 3-pointer night. So the Celtics bared down, get the defense going, and got enough offense when they needed it. They pick up this win against the Cavs. They've won 4 in a row now for the first time since November. The Celtics might just be back.
Elsewhere, the Mavericks were in Philly to face the Sixers.
Dallas Mavericks fall to the Philadelphia 76ers, and just so many mistakes in the clutch moments of this one. Kyrie had to travel with 2 minutes left. Clay forced a tough transition corner 3. Kessler Edwards had a really bad turnover on a pass. Kyrie got a steal, but then Najee Marshall got blocked in transition when he could have just passed it back, and that would have been an easy bucket right there. Then another drive where Najee Marshall tried to get fouled and didn't get it and missed the shot. And then Dante Exum loses the ball at the very end, and they don't even get a shot off in the last second. Brutal for the Dallas Mavericks. Kyrie was excellent in this one. 34 points, 9 boards, 4 assists for him. 10 of 11 from the free throw line. He doesn't get to the line that often. It really looked like he took the mantle of being the number 1 scorer for the Mavericks. Daniel Gafford left this game with a shoulder issue. That really forced them to play small, which was tough too. But Max Christie, 32 minutes, 15 points, hit all 4 of his threes, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, some really clutch moments too. A tough fadeaway jumper. He's a real player for the Dallas Mavericks.
And speaking of Mavs Sixers, those two consummated a trade on Tuesday. Another trade with Locked On Mavs host Nick Angstad, and another one he's not a fan of.
The Dallas Mavericks keep moving. They make a trade for Caleb Martin, sending out Quentin Grimes and a second-round pick. This feels to me like another bad asset management trade by Nico Harrison and kind of another scared move too. Quentin Grimes is going to be a restricted free agent this summer. The Dallas Mavericks they had some negotiations with him at the beginning of the season that didn't really go anywhere, and they weren't going to re-sign him, it seems like. And so now they bring in Caleb Martin, who is 29, who is 5 years older than Quentin Grimes, who is the same size as Quentin Grimes, kind of does the same things as Quentin Grimes, but he's signed for 2 more years after this one, and then a player option as well at probably a number that's lower than Quentin Grimes at this point. But I don't understand why the Mavericks sent a second-round pick and the Sixers second-round pick back to the Sixers. That doesn't really make any sense to me. Kind of weird asset management. Caleb Martin will fit well. We've talked about him as a trade candidate on Locked On Mavericks before, but Quentin Grimes to Caleb Martin kind of feels like a lateral move, and for the Mavs to be giving up an asset, I don't know. This one's weird to me.
And Andy Reid said he's not done yet.
I enjoy teaching, so I don't get caught up too much on all the stats and all the records and all that stuff. But I enjoy being around the guys. I enjoy football, the game. You can't put in the hours that we do and not enjoy it. I love the game. Yeah. Yes, I'll be back. I'm glad he's going to have me back.
We're here, Radio Row, Super Bowl 59. Jalen Hyatt from the New York Giants, wide receiver, and you're here. You have like the easiest promo in the history of the world of Hyatt. Can you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, Word of Hyatt. This is my 3rd year doing it. With them. Been one of my favorite endorsements so far. Just because we're always on the same page with everything. Hyatt and I actually started doing something where we wanted to do a experience, like a fine experience, where you get 2 free stays, either here in New Orleans at the Hyatt Centric or at Park Hyatt if you're in New York. One of my favorite hotels. So it's something that we both decided to do as a partnership to help everybody around who wants to stay and get that experience that I had when I was here in New Orleans. I'm staying, and obviously when I go to New York, if I have to stay at a hotel at Park Hyatt, that's where I'll be at. So it's one of my favorite experiences that we're doing so far. So it's gonna be fun.
When you have a season like you guys did in New York, how do you stay engaged in what you're doing? Do you dive into the process? Like how do you really stay locked into what you're doing?
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. It's tough when the season doesn't go the way you want to. Obviously we had a lot of losses that affected our team. But I think really for us, man, it really made us work harder. Even during the season, and even if we wasn't getting the results that we wanted. I really believe that it helped our team just for the future. And obviously I didn't have the year I wanted to. Disappointing year for me, but it just gives me more grind, and it's just going to really prepare me for next year. Just how I come in the off season. So I can't wait.
You did get a chance to see Malik Neighbors go off a little bit, right? Yeah. So what jumped out to you when you first saw him? Like, because you can run, but so can he. So like, what jumped out when you first saw him in camp?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first day that he came and I seen him run routes and everything, I knew it would be special. Time he set foot in New York Giants gear. And I'm proud of him. Proud of what he's done as a rookie, especially, he was going through injuries this year. And, just to see him, go through that, and still, produce the way, he's supposed to produce. I'm so proud of him. And the only thing I want to do is compliment that. And, that's what I'm going to be working on this offseason, what I can do to, help Malik get open and, help, get some attention off of him. And, that's going to be my what I'm going to try to do this year.
What can you do going into an offseason when you don't know what the quarterback situation is going to be? You don't know what his strengths and weaknesses are, on what you can do better as a receiver? Or is it all just you focusing on getting better for you? Yeah,
I think for this offseason for myself, it's just focus on me. Focus on what I got to do. How I can prepare for this year. Being ready for OTAs. We were at training camp and obviously the season. With quarterback situation, we really don't know who it's going to be. If we draft or we get somebody, free agency, you never know. But I just want to be prepared. Whatever quarterback, whoever we bring in, and I want to help somehow. Any way I can. So I can't wait to see who it's going to be.
So you have every year you try and get a little bit better in the off season. Try and learn something. What did you learn this year about your game or about yourself as you try and go through all this?
Yeah, just got to be more consistent. I think that's the biggest thing I learned. Got to be consistent. With the year that we had, you don't really get a lot of opportunities. You got to make the most of it when it comes. And I felt like this year I didn't do the best of that. So I think next year that's what I want to do, just be more consistent. And I think that will change a lot. So that's what I'm going to focus on.
You are very familiar with one of the teams in this Super Bowl, the Philadelphia Eagles, obviously division rival for you guys. What makes them so tough?
Saquon. You know,
Does that hurt a little bit?
Hey, you know, Saquon for sure is what makes them tough. They have a running game. I mean, obviously they have their passing game with Jalen Hurts, and you know when you add both those things, it's very hard to stop you on offense, and because you can do a lot of things. So. You know, I'm proud to say Saquon, you know, what he's done. You know, like I said, when I came in as a rookie, you know, he was like one of the first guys that came up to me, you know, helped me around, you know, facility, helped me around with plays, you know, just really being that leader for me in that locker room. And, you know, when he left, I was obviously, you know, sad, upset, you know, because he's one of my guys. And, but I'm so happy for him, you know, for him to go over there with the Eagles and, you know, do what I know he's capable of doing. So just to see him ball out, you know, that's what I'm proud of the most.
You've seen this new look Eagles defense. Vic Fangio. They had Quinyon Mitchell. They had Cooper DeJean. How do you think they match up with this Patrick Mahomes-led offense? And can they stop them? This was one of the best defenses in the league, but there's still 15 on the other side.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna be a great game. You know, Eagles defense. You know, we played them twice this year. You know, they're very, very, very dominant on defense. You know, it starts with a D-line. You know, they can apply pressure to the quarterback. Then you got your secondary, you know, led by Slay, who's a vet who, you know, done it all. And then you got your other guy, you know, who they just picked up this year, you know, being a rookie, and he's having a great year. I really, you know, I like their defense a lot. You know, they got a lot of guys that can make plays at the spots that they have. But, you know, like I said, Pat Mahomes is Pat Mahomes. So it's going to be a tough one. You know, I love that Chiefs offense. You know, I love how they use Xavier Worthy. You know, I love how they use some guys that, you know, they have there. So it's going to be a tough one. But, you know, for me, I probably got to go with Pat. You see some similarities with how, you know, the Chiefs use Xavier Worthy and how maybe you know, with the speed you have, that you could be used? Yeah, they use Xavier Worthy the right way. They use him the right way. They don't just keep him on the outside. You know, they move him around. You know, that's what you got to do with guys who can run, you know, who's not really big. You know, you got to move him around. You can't just keep him at one spot and, you know, let him do whatever. You got to move him around, and that's what they do with him. That's why he, you know, creates plays, you know, from the slide in to outside. You know, when he moves guys around, get them in the mold, get them, you know, let them feel the defense, how they playing them. You know, that's how you win. You know, that's how you get your guys in the right spots. So, you know, how they use them is great. And, you know, that's why I really believe in the Chiefs.
You can stay up to date all year on the New York Giants by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Giants on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, there's no way this was the best trade for Luka Doncic. I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. Imagine the excitement of going to the big game this Sunday. Well, Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more near you. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Luka Doncic was traded by the Mavericks over the weekend. You might have heard. Our Locked On NBA host discussed what an actual fair trade might look like from their perspective as teams pitch Nick Angstad on what their best offers could be. And it only makes our pal Nick Angstad from Locked On Mavs even more depressed that this was the deal.
If the Mavericks called and offered you Luka Doncic, what would you think an appropriate offer from your team?
This is so painful.
Would be? Ryan, what do you think is a good value from the Nuggets?
You know what? Maybe we'll just throw in Jamal Murray for you. Maybe we'll throw in Michael Porter Jr. No, there's no fair trade from the Nuggets perspective. You're not getting Jokic, that's for sure.
Matt George, I really want to. Before the Fox trade, what would you have given?
Marvin Bagley. Next question.
Would you give up Sabonis, Keegan, and a first
for Luka Doncic? Yes.
Brendan Clean from Locked On Suns. Would you trade KD for him?
I mean, value-wise, you have to.
Would you trade Devin Booker for him?
Value-wise, yes, but it's like, I guess that's what AD sort of was, but they still have LeBron. It's like you're just switching teams. That like your whole team is just a different thing at that point. I don't know, but yeah, I guess so. I guess you'd have to. He's better.
Jackson from Locked On Rockets.
One of Amin Thompson or Alperen Şengün. Like, you got to keep one of those two young guys. That's my only caveat. One of them stays. Pick whoever else you want from the young guys. Pile in 1 million draft picks to beat everybody else's offer. That's what you give for Luka.
Okay, and this one's a really good one. Rylan Stiles.
Oh my God.
From Locked On Thunder.
J-Dub, and then you can just have whatever picks you want. Don't really care.
Nick Angstadt from Locked On Mavericks. What would you give up for Luka Doncic?
My house, one of my legs, probably an arm as well. Just the left arm, probably though. I need the right one.
And finally, the next time you find yourself wondering why a coach is sticking to a struggling young player, think of Packers kicker Mason Crosby, who announced his retirement yesterday after 17 seasons in the NFL. He struggled early in his career. Packer fans wanted him cut, benched. He was 31 of 39 as a rookie, 27 of 34 in year 2, 27 of 36 in year 3. And yet he would go on to make some of the most consequential kicks of the Aaron Rodgers era. A pair of 50-yarders against the Dallas Cowboys you might not have ever remembered because Rodgers threw that incredible pass to Jared Cook. Well, they didn't win the game on that pass. Mason Crosby had to kick the field goal. He turned into a player that is going to backstroke into the Packers Hall of Fame after Packer fans, if it were up to them, would have run him out of town on a rail early in his career. But Mike McCarthy stuck with him, and he became one of the pillars of this franchise for a decade and a half. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up, why the Chiefs' three-peat attempt might fail. So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Go to our video on demand. Click on sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.